Okay, welcome everyone. Please take a seat. We're getting ready to go here. Welcome to dispatch and sick dispatch. This is a shared meeting, and this is our first meeting in IETF 124. Let's get going. So this is our new note well. Can you mute, please? I can hear myself here. This is our new note well, so please pay attention to this. We used to have another note well, like complementary to this one. Now it is incorporated into this. There is an echo there. Yeah. So this is now incorporated into one note well. This governs everything that we do at the IETF, including the expectation of professional behavior and respectful for your colleagues. So please take a look at this, educate yourself, and make sure you understand your obligations here. Okay, next slide. Tips for this meeting: make sure to sign in into a data tracker. It helps us know how many people join this meeting and plan for the future. And it helps you also join the mic if you want to speak. For remote participant, please make sure your audio and video are off and use headset is strongly recommended. Next slide. This is resources for our IETF here, agenda, MeetEcho, and technical support. Next. As you know, dispatch and SIG dispatch doesn't have documents that we work on here. We just direct work into different places. So different options. We can direct the work into an existing work group, propose a new working group, recommend to hold up above AD sponsored document, recommend additional discussion, or find that the work is not appropriate for the IETF. Next slide. And here's our agenda. We have 7 topics. The third one here, we have removed that at this point. So we're going to start with data access collaboration protocol and continue from there without the base 16, 32, and 64 data encoding. Each presenter will have 10 to 15 minutes. And please, if you are in the room, be ready to jump in after that. Like when the previous one is done, be ready to be here as soon as possible. So that's our agenda. Any questions, comments? Okay, let's get going. Oh, yeah. And Bron is taking notes for us. Thank you, Bron. Appreciate it. Okay, our first presenter. That's remote, right? Okay. Yes.
Okay, everyone.
Yeah.
So let's start it. And good morning, everyone. On behalf of my teams, including colleagues from the Chinese Academy of Science and Signacy, I'm glad here to present the data access and collaboration protocols, aka DACP, and SIG guidance on its next steps within the IETF and art area. So let's dive in. So how can I jump into the next slides?
I missed the buttons.
Yeah. Can you see the slide?
No, this is not my slides.
Sorry.
Is the first one DCP?
Yeah.
Okay, this is my slides. So
Here we go.
okay, so let's dive in. Firstly, scientific computing today face some core challenges. The first one is disparate storage with fragmented access. For example, scientific data is scattered across the centers, data centers, lab servers, and some edge devices. Accessing data from different resources requires disjoint too, so which spent a lot of researchers' time on access rather than analysis. So the next one is now unified discovery mechanisms. Metadata is joined in compatible formats like JSON, XML, and sometimes even plain text. So making criteria datasets is invisible and hindering some collaborations, which makes some difficulties. So the next one is inefficient large-scale data transfer. So when we spoke to TV or PB level data, breaks download first workflows. Download requires costly local storage, which fails time-sensitive tasks, and that need to some real-time analysis. And the last one is there are currently no protocols covers combined needs of streaming and security and audibility. So the current to textualize protocols like QUIC offer low latency but no application layers data specs. So HTTP3 boosts web performance but struggles with massive data and lacks lineage tracking. So DCP aims to fill these gaps and build a proven IETF used build on proven IETF technologies and Apache Aeroflight for high performance columnar transport. So so much for the motivation. So let's go on to the background. Okay. So in the last few weeks, we have done so much works, including submitted draft and preparing to apply the IANA for suggested TCP port and at 8587 and supporting background materials are listed. Some, for example, some we used RFC 2119 and Apache Aeroflight. So we also push the protocol implementations on GitHubs, and the most important is we have over 13 CAS scientific data centers that has already have an interconnection needs that will drive DCP's real world applications. So based on the earlier email that we discussed, we believe that DCP align with our area scope. So that's the main reason why we join into this discussion today. So next slide. Okay. So DCP has some core value propositions, mainly in these 4 points. The first one is unified URL addressing. So DCP, like URL like this, and followed by the host and port, and then optional dataset names, and finally the specific path, and enables precise addressing from dataset to field with arrow binary replacing the JSON for efficiency, provide like web-like access. The next one is efficient data handling. We define unified stream data frame with aka SDF model, a streaming data frame. So use streaming data frame models supports lazy computation, which means on-demand processing. So and interactive PB scale data slicing, which kind of like use pandas on your local on the local operations. So and we also support columnar streaming, leverage Apache's arrows format for high through output operations like get, put, and post and cook operations, so which is more efficient than REST or JSON serializations. The last one is security and traceability. So we use distributed token-based access control with per request validations, and which can record multi-hop info. Append forms an auditable tamper-proof linear chain. So this is basically the core value of DSAP. So in the next slide, I will describe some basic main scenarios of DSAP. So I cannot see slides now.
Yeah.
Next one.
Oh, so please come to the yeah. So when it comes to the scenarios, there are basically three scenarios based on the core values that I've mentioned before. So the first one is unified data addressing. We define the standardized data catalog service supporting filtering by like dataset ID, metadata tags, and access permissions. So heterogeneous nodes can access from a unified URL. So the value of this is eliminates, so remove data indexing disappearance across different systems, enables we can use one catalog query, multi-node data visibility. The next one is data frame retrieval in a large scale. So we use stream structured and unstructured data with low latency. So it's ideal for real-time sensor data or like satellite imagery. So the function use the way we achieve that we use zero copy data frame transmission based on Apache Aeroflight and supporting three retrieve models: full fetch, incremental submission, and the continental filtering. So which is suitable for like TV scale scientific data. The value is that compared to the REST or JSON serializations, the transmission efficiency is improved, which meets some demands for low latency streaming transmission. And to combine this, we can boost collaboration in scientific data analysis. So multi-nodes perform collaborative computing based on the SDF model with real-time result synchronization. And we also support end-to-end lineage. So each data frame is appended with an access log, modification reports, and node identifiers, which support data source to trace after multi-hop transmission. So multi-node joint analysis with traceable resource and sharing in scientific scenarios can be supported use DSAP. So after we work in the few weeks, we can I go to the next slide? Okay, thank you. So after a few weeks of works in DSAPs, the desired outcomes today is to direct the work to existing groups. So because DSAP can finish or sometimes complements QUIC and TP3 by solving their data-specific limitations, and we think that it aligns with our working group's goals of scientific ecosystem coherence, all while building on existing IETF standards. So, and if everything goes well, we want to we want to improve this work to two specific actions. Firstly, we want to identify a working group whose character is best match with the CP's objective. For example, addressing distributed data access or protocol coherence. the second facility and the initial engagement with that group to refine the draft and establish some implementation guidelines.
Okay, so we need to wrap up here, and because we want to give people a chance to comment. Okay.
Okay, that's actually that's all for my presentation.
Okay, thank you. Any comments, questions, suggestions? Nobody has any thoughts? Okay, there you go. Yeah.
Ted Hardy speaking. Thanks very much for the presentation. I think there are a couple of elements in this that clearly are for the IETF, the definition of a URI and the request for a report, but much of the rest of this doesn't actually need to be IETF work because it's built on something that already exists and is essentially a set of, as the speaker notes, tools which are already there, like Apache Arrow as a columnar format and an SDF. So I'm not convinced at this point that the bulk of this work actually belongs in the IETF and that the requests for a URI and a port could progress separately from the actual protocol work, which might be better done somewhere else. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Martin. Martin?
All right, Martin Thompson. I read the draft, I saw the presentation here, and I'm struggling to understand why this needs a new protocol at all. And I don't think that case has really been effectively made in either of those mediums. So I think maybe a different answer to Ted, but a fairly similar one for at least us, which is that I'd like to see a little bit more clarity about what the novel thing is that this is doing, separate to something like HTTP. Most of the functions that you're talking about, by my understanding, work perfectly well in HTTP. So I'd be sort of curious to see what you have to say about that, but my initial suggestion is to not take this work on here.
Okay, thanks. Charles?
Yeah, thanks. Charles Eckel. So I had a question about like the Apache Arrow community. Are there people from that that project that are looking to bring specific work into the IETF where they thought IETF could help, say, with standardizing some aspects of the project? Is that I wasn't sure if that was a goal, and if so, then it's important to have members from that community here to help with that.
Okay, thanks, Charles. Do you want to answer that, Sang?
So actually, we have not worked with Apache community for now, but I believe that if we further complete these protocols, we can push them to make IETF an formal protocol. By then, I think that Apache Arrow will. I think we will communicate them more frequently.
Okay, thanks. Mike?
Mike Bishop, not as an AD, but my understanding is this is built on top of Apache Arrow, which is not an IETF thing, which in turn builds on top of gRPC, which is not currently an IETF thing. So I think if this were going to be standardized as a protocol of the IETF, there's a lot of predicate work that would have to happen first of other building blocks that would need to be standardized here or standardized somewhere that we could normatively reference. I feel like this either needs to happen outside the IETF with just the couple pieces that are applicable, or there's a lot of predicate work that needs to be brought in.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Okay, so the summary of these discussions from the chair's perspective is that the work group thinks this is not a work that should be done at least now at the IETF. So that's the kind of conclusion and the summary of this discussion. Thank you. Next one. Yeah, customer facing, really. AI discovery.
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
The slides aren't here. That's
Okay.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
I
I have to
can
hand
turn
it.
on the clicker.
Yeah. This one. Yes.
Good, you should,
Try. Okay.
check it out. Make sure-
Testing. Yes. All right.
Try the clicker, make sure it works. There's a switch on the side, sometimes people don't turn on.
Problem exists between keyboard and chair.
Okay, so maybe we will
Maybe-
drive it from here. Let me sort it out for now.
Good morning, dispatch. Here to talk about AI agent discovery using DNS.
Can
In
you
particular,
Get
a draft-
closest to the mic, like
Oh.
adjust it and get closer. Yeah.
Eat the microphone.
Okay, is that all right?
Yeah.
Okay, moved into sole person's mode, right? Yeah, this is to discuss AI agent discovery using DNS, particularly a draft that we've put called Band-Aid, brokered agent network for DNS AI discovery. I'm Jim Mosley, Nick and Bishet here. Roland should be remote. Can we have the next slide, please? Thanks, Jim. So the rationale behind this is AI agents needing to discover other AI agents. DNS is obviously long established governance model, is scalable enough to do this and already has the record types and security to support it. It seems a preferable approach to developing a new protocol, especially given the pace of development. There's a couple of features of DNS, SVCB records, and DNS service discovery that can provide well-known entry points for organizations wanting to publish their AI agents. Can we have the next slide, please? Okay, so this came about because of a draft on agent name service. This was talking about a new discovery mechanism with DNS-like characteristics, but not DNS itself. There was also a draft that we discovered and now collaborating with the authors on around using DNS TXT records for AI agents in 6G networks. We ended up producing a draft that is a problem statement and a draft that we're focusing on today for the use of DNS in agent discovery. In terms of discussions that we've had, there seems to be a general sort of consensus or realization that DNS is probably preferable to developing a new protocol. And there's actually been a POC that GoDaddy have done as a registry and advertising agents via DNS. So we've had some discussion on the agent-to-agent list about how to proceed with this. I've had a discussion with the authors of, or one of the authors of the agent naming service draft. And we had some feedback from DNS Op on the Band-Aid draft. Could we get the next one, please, Jim? So in terms of implementations or practical implementations already, I mentioned the GoDaddy POC. I think the thing there is that obviously through IETF and IANA, we should establish the DNS records for the use of this and the relevant leaf nodes for IANA to enshrine, as it were. And obviously, who would want the work to advance? Well, that's AI agent developers and the DNS community in general. Can we go one more, Jim? So there's two ways we could progress the Band-Aid draft, or two areas rather. The obvious would be a DNS op working group, although that's already busy and that's not the problem space per se.
we're not proposing any protocol changes. Rather, the draft would focus on gaining consensus on what is practical and enshrining that into what should be used. There is a new working group proposed with a charter that's being discussed at a side meeting, I think tomorrow morning. Maybe that's a place that it should live, the development of this. And of course, the DNS directorate can always review any DNS related draft and scrutinize that. So the proposal really is that we put it through that new working group, assuming that's going ahead. Yeah, open for discussions, comments.
Okay, thank you. People joining the queue. Sorry, Jonathan is in the queue first. He's behind you.
Hi. Hi. Jonathan Rosenberg from 5.9. I'm co-chairing with Colin the AI protocol side meeting tomorrow. And so this, whether or not discovery should or should not be in scope for that group, is an item on our agenda for discussion tomorrow. So I think that'll be an interesting discussion. I don't want to start playing that discussion right now, but I would invite you to come to the side meeting and we'll have that discussion there and figure out whether or not it's in scope or we want to do another working group. I think that's the main
planning
thing.
on being there. And I should actually, I forgot to plug the fact that we have a side meeting at 4 o'clock today discussing the draft. So welcome anybody along to
got
that.
it. There's a whole like shadow side meeting thing on AI going on here at IETF. So yes, but it's all on the agenda. Yeah, so that's my suggestion, is take it there. And otherwise there's no dispatch action yet at this time. I do think this is an area where there's obviously a lot of interest.
Yeah, okay. Thanks, Jonathan.
Hi, Philham Baker. Yeah, I'm in a curious position of agreeing with pretty much everything you said, but except for the Band-Aid part, it is a registered trademark, and Johnson & Johnson will hammer you into the ground like a nail. Sorry. But more generally, it's not like we've not been doing AI at the IETF for a long time. I mean, like, I was in the MIT AI lab back in the 90s. AI is not something new. The only thing that is really different about this is nomenclature. And, client server is a nomenclature we use in the network world. All server means is the party that waits to be asked to do something. All client means is the party that starts the something. And agents can be either, of course. But I don't think that this really is, and looking through the proposal, I'm not seeing that you're proposing that we do anything different, apart from tell the folk who are pushing AI because it makes their stock price go up, that we already have this covered. The one small bit that I could see that we could do would be, at the moment, we have Dane and we have Dance and we have DNS service discovery, which are 3 different things. And those could, in principle, be one thing where you have a TXT record that tells you the security protocol, which might not be TLS.
So we're not trying to solve the problem here, right? So where
but it's not clear to me that there's work to be done.
Okay, and then state that. Thank you. John. Where? John Clinton, yeah.
Sorry, I just had a problem finding my microphone. Yeah. I just want to point out one other aspect of this for you to think about if you're trying to push this toward the DNS. And that is that as soon as you push this toward the DNS, you get involved with all of the DNS's, shall we say, non-technical issues associated with identification of who owns the name and what the responsibility paths are and other things like that, which for normal DNS uses, we have a great many we or the community or the wider world have a great many privacy concerns, which have made things much more complicated. And it's not completely obvious to me that for this kind of application, you want to inherit those concerns. As I said, just a problem that I wanted to flag, which may have something to do with where this should or should not go in the IETF if it goes anywhere. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. Roman?
Hi, Roman Dilu, Gen AD, so not the responsible of AD of this working group, but an AD. I just want to make a process comment of what I heard in the mic line. Side meetings have no standing in the IETF. This meeting actually has standing. So this idea of sending things to dispatch, I'm sorry, to the side meeting to decide that somehow saying, no, like you come here to have decisions. And if someone wants to kind of suggest it should go someplace else, we don't calibrate side meetings. That's something else that's happening. So again, got just respectively process that does not have kind of standing other than to bring enthusiasm into the official process. And this is the official process. So thank you.
Okay.
No
thanks.
comment on the actual technical work on where it should go.
Colin, do you have a quick comment here?
Colin Jennings, I'll make it very quick. I think that as a way of helping progress this work forward, it would be useful to get what the scope of requirements around what the scope of discovery is. If we're only trying to do discovery inside of a single enterprise organization, that's a different set of requirements than discover agents across the internet. I think that's one of the areas that I'd hope to see more discussion before we tried to dispatch that.
Okay,
Thank you.
the scope will be both.
Thanks. So yeah, like it's not clear to us exactly. So maybe a buff is an option. Maybe more discussions needed. Like maybe a agent to agent kind of participation with that discussion. So like, go ahead, Jonathan.
Yeah, sorry, I couldn't get myself in queue. So I think this is a great comment about process, and I view the side meetings as a precursor to a BOF.
Mm-hmm.
So certainly we're going to propose today in the side meeting that we have a BOF next with, and are starting early on the charter, and therefore BOF is the next thing. And so we'll decide whether or not this is included in that BOF. So that's the dispatch decision, in my opinion. BOF.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's reasonable to us as chairs. I think we makes sense.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next one. Gianpaolo?
Good morning, Gianpaolo Scalone, Vodafone. So I'll bring the discussion to an issue that I think I found in the encrypted transport, that is the source privacy. In the current situation, we have TLS that is protecting what the user is going to access. ECH is also hiding the destination. But there is one remaining gap. The source is still visible to CDN and hosting providers that can still see the client IP and can do correlation. So profiling is possible. So what I'm proposing here is to create a lightweight mechanism so that the source of the customer can be hidden and cannot be possible to do correlation. In this case, user identity is separated from destination, and there is less possibility to do metadata correlation. This is not reducing the capability of ECH, but is adding some protection to hide the traffic source. Another step, another step, not the final one, but another step to the end-to-end privacy. Next one, please. So, starting from the promise of ECH, without ECH, the situation was that on-path observers had the visibility both on the side of the source identity and also the destination. So anybody in the path could do correlation and profiling with different scale depending on their side. With ECH now, nothing on the path can do correlation because the destination is hidden, but they can still see source IP and other client metadata. But there is a new network element that is not the destination, the client-facing server. The client-facing server is a new network element that has visibility both on the client IP and the destination. And given the fact that is looking at a huge quantity of data, it can do profiling at planetary scale. Next one, please. The client-facing server is a sort of ISP for the content providers. It handles ECH for a huge set of domains and has visibility also on the client IP, destination domain, so profiling is possible. The situation with ECH is that nothing on path can have visibility on the destination, so they can see only the source IP and the IP of the client-facing server. But the client-facing server that can decrypt the outer TLS has visibility both on the source IP address and the SNI. And in addition, it is in a different jurisdiction respect the customer. So it is adding another point. While some customers are protected by their privacy law under the jurisdiction where they reside, the client-facing server typically reside in a different jurisdiction. So it is a control point and a correlation point. This is not true end-to-end privacy because the end is the origin or content server. And so this is something that is adding a new control point and potentially a new surface of attack. Next one, please. What also on the centralization side, what has happened is that we have gone from a limited visibility on traffic where each regional ISP had some visibility on the traffic and could do limited correlation to a planetary grade correlation where a limited number of CDN can aggregate the traffic and do profiling for a portion of the humanity, not a portion of a single nation. So we are going from a million of customers to billion of customers in a single concentration. And in addition, what we are adding is that those CDN providers are in a different jurisdiction. So there are risks regarding the local law compliance, but also we are adding an exposure to surveillance from foreign countries. So the internet is moving from decentralized to a few limited control points. Next one, please. So what is happening is that ECH is a good progress in providing end-to-end privacy, but has added a gap, and this gap still remains. So the issue now and the gap is to protect not only the destination, but also the source, the client identity. And my presentation wants to propose the approach of integrating, creating a lightweight relay at the edge of ISP or network, on enterprise network to protect the identity. Another potential approach is to the GDPR-like approach where the privacy of the customer is protected by law and by compliance. Next one, please, final. So here, my request to the WISE group of dispatch is to find a next step for this work if you think that this is relevant.
Okay, thank you. Tommy?
Hello, Tommy Pauly, Apple. Thanks for the presentation. So overall, I think the points that you're making about ECH being insufficient for your complete privacy story, definitely true. The points about the fact that the servers can still observe your IP, all true. And overall, I think all of these details are discussed. We have a IAB RFC 9614, which talks about privacy partitioning and all of these considerations. So definitely you're in agreement with those. Main question I have is how this would be different from existing work that we have. And I read over the short draft you have, and like it mentions things like mask, etc. The draft seems pretty thin on the details of what specific proxying protocol you're talking about, but it really seems like this would be satisfied by having a network hosted mask proxy, which is something that is possible and actually is in cases already done today. And there's also work that is going on in int area for proxy discovery, where you either can discover proxies from each other, but also from bootstrapping from network provisioning. So I guess my first reaction would be, engage with some of the working groups already doing stuff like this in mask or in int area. Also, I'm sure PairG is a good place to discuss, but I'd love to hear why you think this may be different from those existing solutions.
Thanks, Sami. Martin.
Yes, just...
Yeah, go ahead.
So I think this is slightly different because I want to introduce a sustainable approach to this, as adding additional network elements is a cost that often is not possible to sustain, and also add some hop. So there is a latency, you have to pay with additional latency. I want to improve on existing network element by purpose. I didn't add a lot of details because I want to open the discussion once it is on the proper track. But I think by implementing on existing network elements, different methodology, for example, for NATing, by randomizing the exit IP address, having access to a huge number of IP addresses and using ephemerical IP addresses and ports can reduce the exposure of clients while keeping the cost of implementation simple. So it is a new function in existing network elements such as BNG, UPF, etc.
Okay, so we're not trying to solve the problem here. So next, go ahead, Martin.
Yeah, a bunch of people are going to talk about oblivious HTTP after me. I don't care about that. I think that's rather too specialized. I think what you're describing as a NAT, it's kind of interesting that the IETF for a long time was rejecting that notion. I believe they're already deployed in a lot of places. I think the problem is that a lot of networks don't want to do the sort of NAT that would provide privacy. And there's a bunch of constraints on the operations of them that would suggest otherwise. So I'm most interested in trying to work out whether there's a contingency of network operators that would be willing to operate these sorts of NAT devices, because you could do it without any protocols and anything from the IETF. A lot of operators already operate CGNAT, but they maybe need to do some of that differently to get the privacy properties that you're describing.
So Martin, from a dispatch perspective, like, you think there is nothing to do here, or should it go to somewhere else?
So I don't know that there's nothing to do, but I think it probably needs a little more sort of work on refining the problem statement so that we can sort of get down to some of the details of maybe this is an int-area thing where you need some signaling involved, or maybe there's nothing there and we just need to talk about some of the management side of things. Maybe there's some security requirements that you need to place on the operation of the things. I think this is a little unclear to me at this point.
Where should that be discussed?
At the IETF, probably, but
yeah,
not in any specific venue here. I think this is probably one of those things where side meetings and whatnot are probably necessary to sort of iterate on the design a little bit more before we give it a single home, because this is pretty broad potentially.
Okay, thanks, Martin. Dennis.
Yeah, Dennis Jackson, Mozilla. To echo Martin, yeah, I think it really matters what technology this is going to use. It seems interesting, but you've got to sort of settle that a little bit first and then find a home for it once you sort of know the kind of thing you want to do.
Okay, thanks. Andrew?
Yeah, hi, Andrew Campling. I think this is a problem that the potential sort of surveillance threat of CDNs and other centralized points. So I think it's a useful problem to explore further. Maybe in the first step, dispatch to a mailing list, and potentially then maybe to a working a BOF in due course. But I think mailing list to scope this out better would be best as a next step.
What was the first option? A mailing list, a dedicated mailing list, or dispatch mailing list you mentioned?
Dispatch to a dedicated mailing list.
Oh, got it. Okay.
To explore further.
Okay, thank you. Right. Right. Yeah. Okay. So I think the idea of creating a dedicated mailing list for this discussion makes sense to us. So let's do that and see what the outcome of this, and see maybe a BOF after that. Right. So, okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next one. Tim. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
We're gonna drive the slides.
Okay, let's get started. Hi, everyone. My name's Tim. I'm also speaking on behalf of Abi and Matteo. And we're here today to talk about the Longfellow system for zero-knowledge credentials. Next slide, please. Okay, so let's start with a problem statement. So there's more and more jurisdictions around the world where regulators are imposing requirements for authentication online. So in particular, you have places like the UK that are requiring users to do age verification before they can access websites like social media or websites serving adult content. So the solutions that I would describe as naive that are getting deployed right now involve users doing things like, say, taking a picture of their driver's license or a passport page and then uploading that to the relying party. So this is a major risk, as we've seen just recently in the case of Discord, who in the course of complying with such a requirement were storing highly sensitive user data. They suffered a breach, and then people's IDs have leaked en masse. All right, so in parallel with this, the European Union is currently designing requirements for a digital wallet in the broader framework of this whole big, crazy digital identity scheme that they're designing. And there's interest amongst member states and the regulators in using zero-knowledge schemes for this. Okay, that's a big topic, and we don't even really have time to do a vulgarization of what all that means in our time here. But the upshot is zero knowledge would be a way that lets you prove a specific assertion about the bearer of a credential, such as their age or that their age exceeds some requirement, but without revealing the entire credential or a bunch of other potentially sensitive information about the individual. And it uses fancy math. So there's a lot of ZK stuff out there, a lot of schemes, some of them already deployed. So in particular, Longfellow is a scheme that does these kinds of zero knowledge proofs, but it's optimized for making statements on legacy cryptography, specifically elliptic curve digital signatures using the NIST curves and SHA-256. And it's compatible with existing issued credentials like MDoc, which is popular for driver's licenses, I want to say. So the key thing here, right, is that you get the nice privacy stuff of ZK, but without requiring issuance of new credentials that use fancier cryptography like pairing friendly curves or BBS or stuff like that you might be familiar with. So this stuff really threads the needle. You get the privacy wins. You don't need to hand out new passports to every single person in the EU, and the performance is actually tractable. Next slide, please. All right, so Longfellow in particular has already been deployed in Google Wallet, and what they announced on their blog post linked there is that they're using it currently to allow users to authenticate or prove age perhaps to Bumble. The folks at Google have open sourced a C++ implementation. There's links to GitHub all over the slide. At work, we are doing in parallel a Rust implementation, which we're partway through. I just still have to do the Ligero part. And there's a number of European Union digital identity wallet implementations that I've expressed interest in adopting. I think Multipass already, has integrated this. and WW Wallet by the Ceros Foundation is interested in incorporating it. Next slide, please. Now, there's a document, there's a draft. So this has previously been discussed at the Crypto Forum Research Group at the IRTF. So I believe in particular it was on the agenda last time around at 123. So the research group members expressed some interest in the work. However, what was raised in the mic line there is that it wasn't obvious how CFRG would pursue this. There's some distinction between, do you write a document that spells out how to do this thing, or is it a big research project? And I should note also that there is some agenda time for this document at CFRG's Thursday session this week. Okay, additionally, when I brought this to the Sec Dispatch mailing list the other week, Eric Rescorla, who I don't think is here today, argued that, like, the merits of Longfellow aside, the ZK proof scheme in use is one piece of a very big architecture, right? Like, you'd have to figure out, does this fit into JOTS? How do you do presentations? There's a whole lot of protocol problems to solve here. And additionally, like, another, big development since I requested this, agenda time is the Internet Architecture Board, W3C, held a workshop towards the beginning of October on age-based restrictions on content access. Now, that was specific, as I understand it, to age verification. And the question of credentials and zero-knowledge credentials is a bit broader than that, because, like, another problem you need to solve there in some cases is, say, proving that the bearer resides in a particular jurisdiction. But nonetheless, as I understand it, like, I don't think anything has sort of been published out of that workshop yet, except for the papers and slides people were presenting. But as I understand it, the IAB is sort of chewing on that and possibly, concocting a scheme, a plot, a plan to do something about this. And another development that is so late breaking it's not even on the slide is there are, competing schemes to Longfellow. In particular, I think some folks at Microsoft Research have this thing called Crescent, which is, it's a different cryptographic construction, but it's trying to sort of thread the same needle of, like, performance and privacy. So I bring that up to say, there's other things in this space, right, that could be assessed alongside something like Longfellow. Next slide, please.
Whoops. The buttons keep moving here.
Here we go. Let's skip this. This is just some more links on background stuff in case anybody's interested. You can go find the slides on the data tracker. All right, the call to action. Okay, so what do we want to do here, right? Well, to be honest, I'm not sure, which is why I come to Dispatch. And in fact, at this point, I think focusing on Longfellow specifically maybe is an error, in the sense that if there's a problem to be addressed here, I think it's, let's say, digital credentials, perhaps particularly zero knowledge as applied there too. So what I know, though, right, is that we have nonprofits, we have academics, we have industry people, and we have governments who want to work together on this, and they need some venue, ideally an open one, to do it, right? So I would think perhaps the IETF could provide this, and I think the question is, how? So yeah, I think that's what I have to say.
Okay, we have a long list. Let's close.
That's one of your slides.
Okay, Elliot.
Good morning. Thanks for the presentation. I just want to add a little bit of urgency into the mix here in terms of getting work done on this. I live in Switzerland. We just had a vote for electronic IDs last month. It passed 50.4%. So it was controversial on this topic, but nevertheless, they're moving forward on implementations. Obviously, they have some open source in the space, but I think the key thing is that governments aren't waiting. And so if we can get ahead of this, that would be very nice. So I would like to see a venue for this stuff to move forward. Thank you.
Which venue, Elliot?
I'm not 100% sure that I wouldn't mind that it would be an IETF venue, and maybe the first thing to happen is a BOF on this to try and figure out, to try and scope a charter for the work, maybe answer some questions about whether it's the Google only proposal or what have you.
Okay.
But that would seem to me to be the obvious choice.
Okay.
If I would be concerned about dumping this back over to the CFRG or to the IRTF in particular, simply because things tend to happen rather slowly there at a researcher's pace, and I think we need something a little bit faster.
Okay, thank you, Elliot.
May I respond? Thank you.
Okay, quickly, because we have a long list of people here. So quickly, please.
So to the point about urgency, I'm going to slightly argue against myself, but that has come up previously in the context of the MIMI working group, which is about instant messaging, and was formed in response to like some EU legislation. What we concluded there is that even if the IETF moves absolutely the fastest it possibly can, it still doesn't go that fast. So yes, urgency matters, but like it would be a mistake to say we got to get an RFC out by like end of 2026.
Okay, thank you. Next, Tommy.
Tommy Pauly, speaking for as IAB chair, just because IAB was mentioned a couple of times here, and there are other people in queue who can talk more about the workshop content. I just wanted to just point out for the scheduling and stuff you're saying, we had this workshop. We are planning on producing a workshop report. That is what happens after every workshop. Ideally, that comes out by the end of the year. But we also do have a meeting on Thursday at the IAB Open, where a good chunk of that time will be given to discussing kind of what happened at the workshop, kind of a pre-read on that report, and there will be time to have more discussion and comments there. So if you want to hear about that, that is a venue you can come to talk to this week.
Okay, thank you. Mark.
Yeah, Mark Nottingham, co-chair of aforesaid workshop, along with Martin, who is wisely perhaps sitting down still. So we're going to produce a report. That's going to take a little while because, frankly, so much happened at the workshop. It's a meaty topic. The only thing I would say here is that definitely one of the things we identified at the workshop was there's a need for coordination here. This is a multifaceted problem with a lot of different moving parts and a lot of different actors, and very much so it's more than just defining some technology. So very sympathetic to that idea. At the same time, just creating a mailing list, this is at least the age verification / that whole galaxy of problems is a very emotive topic. And I am concerned that just opening a mailing list is going to be an open slather for a lot of really unproductive discussion. So if we can figure out a productive scope of work or a scope of discussion, that would probably be a useful thing to do. But I'm a little wary of just saying, hey, go discuss age verification on this mailing list and see what happens, because I think we know what's going to happen.
So Mark, would the BOF be the right venue in this case?
I think it's all about scoping. And I frankly, we just held the workshop. We're just trying to digest the nature of the discussion there and figure out what would productive next steps potentially be. And maybe after a little more thought, we might come up with some potential items for that. And that's not in any way to say don't do this, because Longfellow is one of the things that came up and people were very complimentary. But it's just a question of how does it fit in the larger picture in a way that the IETF can have a positive influence on the outcomes.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Rohan.
Hi, Rowan May. So I think they're kind of two separate dispatch questions, actually. So one is, this thing is in the wild. So do we want to do anything more in terms of documenting that it exists other than an internet draft? And I'd be okay with that being, there being a, AD sponsored or informational track document just saying, hey, we did this thing. But then also what Emnat said about having a BOF, like we don't even agree on what the scope of that would be right now, and we need to figure that out, but we can do that. So.
Okay, sorry, Andrew.
Hi, Andrew Campling. Having had a quick look at the SPICE charter, which is all about digital credentials, I just wonder, could it be dispatched there for further work?
Okay, many ideas here. Sorry.
Hi, I'm Deirdre.
Oh, okay, go ahead. Sorry.
This is another case of something that is cryptographic, fully spec'd out, deployed in industry, and doesn't have a good home in the IRTF or IETF. It's not research. It is done. It needs a home to be specified and either turned into an internet draft or an RFC or something like that. The independent editor is not a good fit. The IRTF is not necessarily a good fit. A working group for cryptographic engineering might be a better fit if it existed. Not necessarily a working group for every specific application. We've just spun out an HPKE working group out of CFRG, but I don't necessarily think that needs to happen for something like this. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But the fact that fully spec'd out cryptography that's not a research project doesn't really have a home in the IETF or IRTF has come up again and again. If we had a cryptographic engineering working group or something like that, it would be a nice home for this document right now, but we don't have that right now.
So what's your suggestion for dispatching it? Like, are you saying maybe we need to create a work group for this? Would that buff be the right answer?
I don't know if a BOF is the right answer, but I have a collection of evidence that a cryptographic engineering working group would be a home for this if we created that working group.
Okay, thank you. Elisa.
I think there's a couple of kind of scoping questions to think about with respect to the next steps. So one is this sort of the function that CFRG provides for the rest of the IETF. And I could definitely imagine a future here where there's like an IETF home for work in this vein, but where the established relationship is similar to how other working groups make use of CFRG. So like there might still be a locus of all the smart people in CFRG who are doing review, but then there's a piece that you standardize in an IETF working group. That seems like a logical outcome here. I would certainly scope this to the zero knowledge proof part and not to the age verification part, right? So age verification is this huge thing, as you said, and this is like an incremental piece, which is very crucial for, as Deirdre said, things that are already deployed or are rapidly being deployed in many, many jurisdictions, not just the European Union. And so I think focusing in on that narrow slice could help get to the point where people could have broad agreement about what the charter for such a narrowly scoped working group could be. You could BOF it and then have a working group to work on that collection of things, especially if there's, this is totally not my domain, but if there's competing proposals, like you need a venue to be able to discuss those kind of against each other. And so a working group feels like a natural fit for that. Just in terms of like the eventual outputs, there's similar things outside of the context of cryptography that have happened in the past where you at least like document them as informational, even if they're not standards track, which is, you know, an in-between option. If it's not something that's a protocol, yikes. I guess so. Okay. Last time we were here, the fire alarm went off, so here we are again.
We said CFRG too many times.
I guess. I got my message across. So.
Thank you, Elisa.
Okay, thanks, Elisa. Martin. You can speak up, Martin.
I can.
It says to wait for instructions.
Another signal has been received. We are now investigating the cause. Please stand by for further instructions.
While we wait, one other thing I forgot to mention, we have a side meeting tomorrow afternoon, I believe at 4:30. Yeah, Bears Leaf, who scheduled it, so more opportunity.
Oh gosh.
Attention, attention. Another signal has been received. We are now investigating the cause. Please stand by for further instructions.
Just talk over it, Martin.
All right. I'll give it a go. I was standing by. So as there are a bunch of things that I think a bunch of other people have said. I think the scoping question is really interesting. One of this part I'm not going to stand it. Someone find the off switch.
S'il vous plaît, en français, Martin.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, it's all caps. It's everything. It's great. So the question of whether the compiler or the circuit is in scope is a very interesting one that I think needs to be answered. The question, Alyssa made the point about age verification, and I very much agree with that. Please do not consider that to be your blocking thing. Unfortunately, I think that's...
Get closer to the mic. So
I'm standing right on top of it.
Now it's better.
So the question of...
Oh, come
I can't do
on.
this.
Attention. Another signal has been received. We are now investigating the cause. Please stand by for further instructions.
Just burn the building down already. Put us out of our misery. I've forgotten what it was that I was going to say at this point.
You were talking about the circuits, I think?
Yeah, I think I already made that point. There was something else.
But you're right, though. Those do have to be standardized.
Right. So the circuits need to be standardized. I was going to say the age verification use case is a really interesting one here, and it seems to be the one that everyone's focused on. But the concern is that I don't think this is necessarily the one that you want to be using to motivate the work, but it's the only one that matters for this particular piece of technology, because we have alternative zero-knowledge proof systems that are far more efficient and probably superior, some of which are already progressing through the CFRG as we speak in its own glacial way. And I don't know that there are a lot of other zero-knowledge proof applications with this particular shape. And so I have reservations about that as well. So I would very much like to see the BOF come around for this one. I think there's a lot of questions to answer on this. And I think some of them are simply, do we have use cases that are not the age verification thing? Because if it is the age verification thing, then it's a very difficult conversation to be having. Having chaired that workshop, I can tell you that everything Mark said was correct. Difficult.
We are now investigating the cause. Please stand by for further instructions.
So I'm arriving at the mic for an interrupt. There is confirmation there is no fire. The emergency button was pulled accidentally. They are trying to figure out whether we can turn this off, and I leave it to the chairs to decide whether we can continue to pull off this meeting with this informative sound.
Yeah. Thank you. So yes, okay.
Attention. Another signal has been received. We are
So-
now investigating the cause. Please stand by for further instructions.
Okay, Roberta, do you want to say something? Speak up.
Yeah, just.
Oh, sorry.
I am the next one. I don't think I'm the next one.
Yeah. So sorry, Richard.
Attention. No, for me, this implementation is when I interoperate needed target. Like, that's pretty dispositive. Like, we should do something here. Like, we have a community, we have a problem to solve. I think Martin's comments convinced me that we should probably need a BOF or some sort of discussion there. I will put in my usual plug. Like, let's not wait to the next IETF and do something remote instead. But yeah, I think we should like focus this toward a working group, not CFRG, not any IAB thing. But let's do it and do it expeditiously.
Sorry, a new work group. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think a new focus working group sounds about right.
Okay, thanks, Richard. Roberta, quickly, please.
Yeah, so I am at the same point of opinion about above. I just wanted to add an anecdote because our government now is trying to regulate this part as well, and we're seeing like a reason groups trying to use the age appropriate theme as a surveillance kind of scapegoat. So I would say that if we don't organize in here, at least you know what to do until the things are ready and the protocol works for all the cases, and we have like a open and direct answer as you know as an entity. We need to have like we need to have a way to go ahead and stipulate the best second case, best third case with what we already have. So while we wait the best case scenario, we also can, you know, support the current government questions and issues with agency. Just that, and yeah, Bob.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. I see Eric in the queue. Can you please be quick, Eric?
Eric's always quick.
Sure. Can people hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I think this is interesting work. I think we should think about how to adopt it, but I don't think it should be adopted directly in IETF. This is complicated, much more complicated than Sigma protocols. And so the idea that we're going to publish it without being properly reviewed through some mechanism is just like not really appropriate. So currently that mechanism is CFRG. I see Richard pointing out that it's not really research in some sense, but neither is anything else that we publish in CFRG largely. So if that's our current mechanism. So what we need to find some way to do that, but right now it's CFRG.
Okay. Thank you, Eric. So we've heard so many different ideas here. A work group, above, not ready for work. So maybe we need to. So. Yeah, maybe we'll have. We will have the discussion. Okay, thank you. So, yeah. So what we're thinking is that the chairs will talk with the ADs and we will make a decision after that. So we're not ready to make a decision at this point. Thank you. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone, for the thoughtful contributions.
Stephen. Where's Stephen?
Attention. Our investigation reveals that no emergency situation exists. Thank you for your cooperation. It is now possible to return to your working area. Merci de votre collaboration. Vous pouvez maintenant retourner à vos postes de travail. Attention.
Oh, one more.
They want to make sure we understand. Thank you for your cooperation.
Hey. Okay, return to your working areas.
Yeah. You understand. Okay.
Okay,
Let's
next
get going.
slide.
Yeah.
Next slide. So there's a draft. It basically says this, write some kind of crisp and terse guidance for post-quantum deployment, not for implementations, not for people developing specifications, but for those dealing with the many specifications that we've done. This is what I would like it to say. Other people might have other opinions. Whether we could get to something that had consensus, who knows? But I think it's something that I think is needed. Next slide is why. So we have a crap load of working groups doing a crap load of every possible PQ thing, it seems, and we seem to find it unstoppable. We can't resist it. We've returned to our working areas and gone back and added PQ to them. For example, the LAMPS composite signature thing has 18 new algorithm IDs, and there's many other LAMPS drafts. In OpenPGP, it adds 17 new code points for post-quantum things because we combine everything with everything, or we try not to but fail. And there's a whole bunch of other working groups doing similar kind of things. And ultimately, we just don't seem to be able to resist defining and specifying how to do almost every post-quantum combination that you could envisage. And this is even with the set of algorithms, post-quantum algorithms now. If you add photochem, if you add other signature algorithms, it all gets worse and worse and worse. And I don't like this, but it seems unstoppable. So I think we should provide some guidance, because people are going to be seeing this in their possible configurations for web servers, for other kind of applications. And they're going to have 100 things to choose from. And if they have 100 things to choose from, and possibly 40 or 50 of those will be on sound because we haven't figured out how the PKI stuff works, or because we don't know if you want composite signatures or multiple certificates or whatever. I think a bit of simple guidance that says, for now, for the next couple of years or so, concentrate on just this bit, which is what I would like to say in the first slide. So that's the why. Next slide. Where some people clearly don't like the idea at all or think it's stupid. That's fine. Dev null is a possible output. pQuip is what would seem like the natural place for this, except I haven't so far detected any skepticism about post-quantum anything in pQuip. They seem to be enthusiasts, which is lovely, but I think some skepticism is needed. Ops AWG, maybe it's kind of an ops thing. It's about if you're deploying, if your package, your tool gives you the option to turn on 60 different post-quantum things, we're saying for now, ignore the signature crap and just do a hybrid chem of some sort, according to how the protocol does it and how your implementations allow you to. It could be AD sponsored, but that probably makes no sense. That's all my slides.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Let's get it going. Mike.
Hi. Mike Answorth, recently unemployed, which means I can say what I want to say. I mostly agree with Stephen, actually, despite being on his slide. I think we don't need to rush to signatures everywhere. I think we're going to spend a lot of economic effort implementing signatures places they're not actually strictly needed. So I think this is a great conversation to have. I think I'm going to disagree with Stephen that they shouldn't be with urgency anywhere. I think there are places, and I think we should have the discussion and very clearly provide guidance for where there is urgency on signatures and where there isn't. So dispatch, yes, please give us a place to have this discussion. We need to have it. We need to provide guidance. Thank you.
So did you prefer any of these particular bullets?
I think pQuip. I think we should arm wrestle pQuip into taking this. I think that's I think that's what it was chartered to do.
Add a skeptical taint to pQuip. Okay.
I agree. Yeah. I very much support having some work like this. I think that we probably need to go further than just PQ, because a general problem that we have at IETF is each individual working group chooses a bunch of algorithms they like, and then 10 years later, those are obsolete. We really need to be giving people constant guidance. And this hit one of my specs, which is SAML, and nobody's been updating it for 20 years because it just works. And it's got 20 years obsolete algorithms. So I do disagree with some of the stuff Stephen wrote, which is why we need to have a working group, because he's not expert on everything. Well, he's expert in everything, but I don't agree with him on everything. We need a discussion. Whether it's in ops area, I mean, it does seem like this should be security, but maybe it should be somewhere else specifically so that we don't have vested interests arguing for one way or another.
So Phil, you're saying a work group?
Working group, yeah.
Thank you.
Hadn't thought of that.
Eric.
Yes, as I said in the list, this should go to dev null. It is a rat hole that will get us nowhere. And you can just see that by the fact that I disagree with many of the pieces of guidance on this list, as did many other people. And it's the idea that we're going to try to give like industry guidance for saying this complicated and having guidance this unnuanced, I just think is like not going to get us absolutely nowhere. So I think this should go back in the box.
Okay, thanks. Rich.
Yeah, so we haven't been able to prune the lists ourselves, but we're going to come up with a prune list for people to follow. I think that's going to fail. I don't think we'll ever get IETF consensus because there are various niches. Start a mailing list so that I can deliberately never subscribe to it. Thank you.
Okay, Flo.
Hi everyone, Flo D, NCSC. Slowly losing my voice on day one of IETF, so it's going really well. I applaud this, and I think it's a really good thing to aim for. And I think like all the conversations about algorithms in different groups is obviously taking up a lot of time when we could be doing the work. I think if it's going to go to somewhere, it should go to PQIP. It kind of mirrors quite a lot of the deployment guidance that's there. But I also do sort of agree with Eka and with Rich in that I think it's a lot to expect that we're actually going to agree with a kind of 2 bullet point bit of guidance, because I think this is really nuanced. It does depend on the circumstance. But if there's general consensus it should go somewhere, I think it should be PQIP.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Sean
Sean.
Turner. Stephen, you and I had dinner last night. We spent about an hour talking about this. So
you
this
were
is
wrong, but okay.
So none of this should come as a surprise to anybody, but I'm with Ecker on the dev null thing. I think the TLS working group just did some of this and failed to come to consensus, and I think this would be an epic waste of time. I think this was kind of a mistake to be on the being talked about now, since we literally did it weeks ago. So I think that we should just let it go for a while and see what happens.
Okay.
And I don't agree that was the discussion that happened at
I
TLS,
agree.
but we don't agree. Fine.
Okay, Richard.
Yeah, I'll be brief. At most, something should be done in PQIP, but yeah, I think we should probably do nothing here.
Tom.
Hello. Okay, this seems to be working. Yeah, I agree with a lot of the points made here. All of these combinations seem to be coming up like weed. We were having a discussion about trademarks. Maybe Roundup is the one to reference here. But I really, really, really disagree with the point that we should not be talking about signatures. I think that we've not figured out how to do things in the right way yet in a lot of places. And by postponing that discussion, we will be in just a world of hurt down the line. So pushing back on, should we just follow sort of the default path and just add another code point and add code points for everything? No, probably not. That might be something that we need to think carefully about. But I think that the work being spun up in the plans BOF shows that this can be extremely complicated to get right, post-quantum authentication, in a way that scales, in a way that's deployable, in a way that doesn't slow everything down. But we need to be having those discussions today. So I don't like the just don't talk about it bullet point.
So just to clarify, that's not what it says, or at least that's not what it's intended to say. What it's saying is don't deploy. It doesn't say don't talk about it, don't develop another 55 specifications. We will inevitably do that because we can't resist. It just says we recommend you don't deploy that stuff because we don't think it's ready. That's what my proposal would be. Not that you don't talk about it, you just don't encourage people to use it and get stuck.
Okay, and Paul.
Paul Wout is SecAD, speaking only as one SecAD, not for both. I don't think this falls in PQIP because I think PQIP was designed to be an informative working group, not a normative working group. So I don't think it should set out rules of who can use what crypto.
So I did check their charter, and it does include BCPs, although they haven't really done that. But seemingly the charter allows them to specify BCPs. So.
But irrespective of that, I think, like other people said, it is a bad idea. We won't be able to agree. People might remember I tried to see if we could have some voices in a crypto policy draft 2 years ago and 1 year ago. It spectacularly failed. So speaking for the last bullet point personally, it would be AD sponsored over my dead body. And the only question would be whether it's a self-inflicted wound or a community effort.
Okay,
thank
you.
I would say I think the goal here is different from what you try to do. It's much more limited. It's not saying anything about how we specify these things. We know we're going to do it. It's just kind of say if people are using software that does 65 of these things, we're not recommending they turn them on yet. That's what I'm trying to do.
Brian, go ahead.
Yes, so the 2 points on the draft, I'll say, first of all, I disagree with both of those. I think this is coming from an assumption of web connections where you might need resistance from parse now, decrypt later. You have confidentiality that has a longer lifetime and authenticity with a very short lifetime. Now, that's a select set of use cases. It is not even the majority of use cases. There are also use cases where your confidentiality and authenticity have long lifetimes, and there's use cases where you have even public data, so even low confidentiality, and your authenticity has to be revalidated again and again over time. So from the outset, I think there's a gap of looking at all the use cases, and I think that points to the need for maybe some more informational discussion so people have a wider understanding, and maybe that can happen in PQIP. But as far as having a draft that's exhaustive, I think that's impossible. And I agree with Edgar on that point.
So again, just to clarify, there exist many use cases, and that causes us to specify tens and now possibly approaching 100 different ways of doing things with post-quantum. I'm trying to let's say, not address every use case, because addressing every use case is what gets us into this combinatorial mess, in my opinion.
Okay, we've closed the mic, so for the rest, please. No, I just want to get Elliot into the queue here because he asked to talk about ISP. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
so just a comment from the independent submissions editor. Yeah. I'm not going to entertain any sort of best current practice or something that looks like a best current practice into the queue. However, I did see an excellent write-up on the current state of things from Ecker on his blog. Congratulations, Ecker, on such a great job. And if somebody wanted to write up sort of a state of affairs document, I'd be interested in reading it for sure, at least as a reader.
So I wasn't thinking of darkening your door with this at all.
You never darken my doors.
Okay, so we've closed the mic, or the queue here. So we don't see convergence here. So the only thing that we think might be useful here is to create a dedicated list for that discussion. At this point, we don't see convergence, right? That's at least from the chair's perspective.
Okay, I'll just comment that I'm not sure that that's a useful outcome myself.
Right. So,
so I'm not encouraging people to create a dedicated list because we have SAG, we have PQIP, we have lists.
Okay.
Maybe having an AD direct the discussion to a particular list or to say, please stop, would be useful.
Here's Deb.
So the other SEC AD, this is Deb Cooley, push it to SAG. We can talk about it there. I think it would be,
okay.
I'm not going to talk about it anymore, but I think you can just push it to SAG, right?
Okay.
Gonna go to SAG? Good.
Sure. Okay,
okay,
thank you.
Perfect. SAG it is. Thank you. Next. Sarah? Oh, Sarah is more. Right?
Hello.
Hello.
Great, thank you. So I'm here on behalf of 4 of us who are proposing a standard for interchange of metadata around transparency and falsifiability. You can go to the next slide, please. So we're seeing a little bit of a momentum behind systems that are trying to make claims. We've seen Apple launch their private cloud compute last year. We've seen WhatsApp launch something similar. And these are people that are trying to make claims usually about the privacy of a system based on transparency of the system itself. So the idea here is to give users reassurance about what's happening to their data by providing some sort of proof about the properties of how that data is handled. And that proof is made by saying, hey, this whole system is transparent, you can inspect it. However, this is done somewhat inconsistently. The ways in which the system is made transparent are bespoke to each implementation. It's very, very hard to compare across these systems exactly what's happening. So the idea here is to provide some sort of standard for communicating about the transparency levels of a given system and how that works. You can go to the next slide, please. So the proposal here is a transparency metadata interchange format. Right now we've specified as an example a JSON format. I'm happy to review exactly how that works in practice. But the idea is that services that want to make this claim, these kinds of claims, can host this sort of metadata to formally describe the transparency levels and then make those claims falsifiable. We don't say provable because it's very difficult to prove the absence of something, but you can say, hey, it is possible to find a bug or a counterpoint in this system that undoes the claims that we're making. The idea here would be to enable anybody to assess and verify these kinds of transparency claims using things like remote attestation from trusted execution environments in combination with open sourcing, et cetera, to be able to actually go through and inspect what's happening. There's a pointer to the draft there. It's also, of course, in the dispatch notes. Can go to the next slide, please. So the current goals of the standard are to define the kind of target systems that we're talking about, so scope it down so that we're not talking about all systems everywhere, really looking at the kinds of systems that use trusted execution environments to make an attestation about the binary that's in the environment and maybe batch that binary to some open source code somewhere so that you can actually verify what's happening in the system. And then really to define a set of metadata that we would want to include in that protocol that allow us to understand, okay, how much of this system is actually made inspectable in this way. And then we might have some additional metadata that claimants want to be able to say, hey, you can go look at this particular kind of documentation, etc. Next slide, please. So the examples of the kinds of metadata we would be talking about here are, okay, links to open source repo where you can inspect the code. You can say, oh, this is fully open source, so everything, including the workload, is open source. We've also included reproducible builds or not, so that users who want to verify the system can actually go through and see that they can see all the things that they would expect to in order to be able to check all the attributes of the system themselves. Next slide, please. So we think that this really has some links to existing working groups. There are several that potentially we could see this having overlap with. So we would love to see if folks in the dispatch agree that one of them makes more sense than the other. So that this, of course, generally would rely on trusted execution environments. So the TEEP working group might make sense. The SEAL working group, which I believe is now SEAT working group, also very, very relevant here. Somewhat relevant potentially are the supply chain integrity group as well, because we would be talking about things like verifiable builds, and remote attestation is also somewhat relevant. Or potentially this might actually make a good informational RFC. Great. That's it from me.
Okay. Thank you. Osama.
Yeah, Sama to you, Dresden. Thanks very much. I don't see any connection at all with the SEAT working group, and except for the title standard, I don't see why you call it as a standard. Is there a plan to somehow integrate a protocol into this? Otherwise, I see it directly as RATS working group work. So why do you call it a standard?
So we would be standardizing the information that, like the bits of metadata that we would want to see for this kind of implementation. We would be standardizing what are the fields that would appear in that kind of communication. Does that answer your
seems
question?
Like, that seems like a pure RATS working group work to me.
Okay.
I mean, you do not foresee or you do not enforce a specific protocol like TLS, or for instance, like ad hoc or something like that, right? So your intention is not to define a protocol, rather your intention is to define a format for attestation claims that you will somehow attestation metadata to put into that work. Is it correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so to me it will be simply a RATS work.
Okay. Thanks, Osama. Okay. Dennis.
Dennis Jackson, Mozilla. Yeah, this very much seems like a fit for RATS to me.
Okay. Thank you. Hank. Oh, sorry. Yeah, Hank.
It's me now. Hi, this is Hank. I'm supposed to say my name every time. Yeah, this seems to be like RATS work, especially as we have a internet draft called attestation results for secure interaction, where we already assess some of the composition of confidentiality of a platform, for example, that or the TE, whatever you want to use the root of trust here, and that seems related. So yeah, I would say present in RATS, and we can figure that out.
Awesome. Thank you. Kathleen.
Kathleen, I'm one of the co-chairs for RATS. So I do think this fits into the RATS work. There's also, I have a posture assessment draft that would take output of this. One of my questions, and I'll have to dig into this further with you, is to look at the mix of local versus remote attestation, right? So
Yeah.
delineating that will be important, and I'm happy to help.
Okay,
Thanks,
great.
Kathleen. Thank you, Kathleen. Elliot.
Sorry, just a question. Is this meant for like a software system or embedded or both? Can you just explain the scope a little bit more detail?
Yeah, the current intended target would be a server-side software systems that want to get clients to trust them. That this is most of the setups that we see right now. You could expand this to embedded systems. We are basing this mostly on a research project that we've been working on called Project Oak, which is intended to actually work across different types of systems. But the current most obvious use case target would be that service running server side that wants to get a client to trust them based on these claims.
Okay, thank you. I think we have a conclusion. Osama, you have one more comment?
So one quick comment. I would like you to see the seat work that we are doing in the tested TLS, so to see that it remains compatible with that.
Okay, great.
Okay, from a dispatch perspective, I think it's clear. You're going to RATS. Thank you. Okay, Robert.
Thank you for this opportunity. This is about updating Tesla for GNSS SPAS authentication. Please proceed. So in case you haven't heard, the global navigation satellite systems are under attack. In case you've missed that piece of news, little can be done for signal interference, but there's amazingly tremendous political pressure to stop the spoofing of messages. This has been going on for a few years, and all of the core constellations, all 4 core constellations, support or will support the satellite-based authentication system. Beyond the basic GNS messages you get for where you are and what time it is, there are these augmented messages as well. They're provided on a regional basis, and they're enhanced signaling for aircraft during safety critical phases like landings. So via this SBAS and GNSS messaging, we can authenticate them. And right now, only Galileo has some signals are authenticated now for civilian use, just one. And but this is going to be across the board. This is an effort across the board for all of them to provide, and not just the 4 core constellations, but also the 2 regional, India and Japan as well. Next slide. And when I've been attending these meetings, the people are there. I mean, I haven't seen the Russians or the Indians, but I know that they're involved. And the other ones I've actually seen in the meetings I've attended. But there's a challenge here, and that's the available SBAS link budget is kind of small. The individual messages are 250 bits, and what we have to work with there, and what is our link capacity. So the SBAS work group has selected a modified Tesla authentication with a CAA for authenticating the Tesla keys when they're released to protect GNSS. This modified Tesla may also be used for ADS-B for what you see for flight aware. I'm at a meeting tomorrow morning about that. This work has been going on for some 3 years. This is not new. It's just that I only found out about it last year. It's been going on for a while. And the point is that this modified Tesla is based because 4082 is dated. And it doesn't fit the bandwidth that we have to work with in SBAS. So the ICAO documentation, which I can't yet release to people, addresses how to use Tesla over this highly constrained, limited bandwidth. So my goal here is to bring 4082 forward cryptographically and public review of the ICAO activity so that what they've been doing there get supported in a new updated Tesla document. Next. So you can see some of the Tesla guidance. There is a paper came out a couple years ago, the authentication of satellite-based authentication systems with over-the-air rekeying schemes, which makes the CA kind of challenging because those certs have to be sent over the air as well, which means these are really little certs. This is the latest of a work of iteration years in the works. The paper references earlier papers and so forth. So this is not just something new. It's been going on over in another area. We've been not aware of it, and now it's being put into birds in the sky and other systems as well. Unfortunately, as I said, the actual IOK work documents are not public. We can't release them yet. We're in discussions about what we can be able to release sometime, maybe soon. I have an initial draft. I just updated Sunday morning, pushed out where I am right now on the work. And as I said, I'm reasonably embedded in the IACO processes. I'll be over there tomorrow for some more discussions. And I only was dragged into this particular item last year about this time. And it's been going on like for 2 years prior to that. So they finally say, hey, Bob, we kind of need you over here. I said, oh boy. So this is work which has been going on. And I have a draft out right now. I'm looking how I may put in an appendix exactly what's being done for SBAS, exactly what the Tesla packets look like, so that we can pull that forward as well as an appendix in the general document. Go on, please. The certificates which are being used for SBAS is in the ICAO Doc 10169, which is their certificate policy profile. That is publication's imminent, but it's orthogonal to the Tesla functionality. This is how those the SBAS certificate will be, how when the keys are released, how to be signed over the air in this very limited bandwidth. They could have been smaller certificates, except that the various groups, particularly Eurocontrol and Galileo, said the software we buy uses SHA-1 for SKI and AKI, and they didn't want to switch to 128-bit C-Shake to save maybe one frame over the air to doing it. They said, no, we got this commercial software that does SHA-1 for this, and we can't afford the money to get them to change it. The over-the-air, now these over-the-air certificates will be sent in C509 encoding. Thank you, Jose. This will be used. You will be seeing C509 over the air in the near foreseeable future. So see my comments I made on that, the list about this. Updating Tesla is potentially new to IETF. A heads up. I said, this has been going on for a few years in another corner of the world, Luke Sky. And now it's going to be rolling out. It would be nice if we are current in what's happening. I am in discussions with the original Tesla authors. Ran has already said he will help me to get it going. And I worked with Ran, 30 years ago on some things. So it's kind of neat to be working with him again. Continue. Next slide, please. So the basic question is, how should we do this? Should the IETF update Tesla with a variant be used by ICAO? Should we do this? So just enough for the current projects, or should there be a serious review and update of Tesla? There may be other people wanting to use it, other constrained cases where what's being done here or elsewhere makes it worthwhile to update Tesla. Is this an AD sponsored, or are we going to put in some existing or a new work group? We're on this discussion list, a mailing list to discuss this. So that's the frame. I'm bringing this to you. This is going on. How do you want to handle it? Where do you want to handle it? Let's dispatch this. That's how we're here in dispatch. And I will have a side meeting later in the week. And for those who are interested in the actual CA structure, what the certificates look like, we can discuss those there. This is discussing specifically Tesla and an update to Tesla to bring it in line with what's in my draft document. So
Okay.
that's the point.
Thank
Please
you.
tell me where to take this.
Rich.
I heard too many, they're not ready to release the documents yet. They're not ready to work with the public yet. I think it's premature to do anything other than try again, come back later.
Thank you, Rich. Stuart.
Yeah, so this grew out of our work attempting to harmonize the drone remote identification protocol work with other SDOs. And when they became aware of Bob's success in doing strong crypto in little tiny packets over very severely constrained aviation bandwidth, they kind of asked him for some further help. You know, we're friendly to this work in the DRIP working group, but it is outside of our scope. We can't adopt it there based upon our charter. And I just want to emphasize the urgency and the importance of this work. There's very little that the IETF can do about jamming signals at the physical layer. However, when your signal is being jammed at the physical layer, you know it, and you know better than to trust what your GNSS system is telling you is your current position. Much, much more dangerous is spoofing. Spoofing can cause aircraft to fly into mountainsides. It's happened. I was speaking with an employee of the Civil Aviation Agency in Poland several months ago. He told me that basically civil aviation has had to cease the use of GNSS in the eastern third of the country. Okay, so while it makes it challenging for us with our IETF process to work with other SDOs that are less open about their process, this is a people live and die thing. It's extremely urgent.
So, Stuart, what's the dispatch perspective? What's your dispatch perspective here? Is it, where should that go?
I don't know where it should go. I wish we could welcome it into DRIP, but it's outside of our charter. But the idea of just kicking the can down the road, this is far too urgent and important.
To Rich's comment about not being released, Michael has shown me, Michael Goodfellow from ICAO sitting next to me, has shown me that there's a meeting next week of the whole navigation systems panel, got the right panel, next week. We'll be covering this, and it's highly likely coming out of that meeting, we'll get the document released. So that may be available like at the end of next week, as we at the end of that the meeting that they're having.
Okay, Breda.
Yes, so I'm going to take a middle ground here in concurring with Stu that this is a very urgent problem, authentication in aerospace, and a very key problem. However, this solution, this Tesla variant, is not it. And Bob and I have discussed this also before. This is highly insecure. So the question becomes, is this a proposal to use what ICAO is doing, and we can't control what they're doing, right? Is this a proposal to simply use that and copy it in, which actually furthers that insecurity? Or is this a proposal to figure out how to do authentication right in aerospace?
Tesla will be used for GNSS authentication. It is too late to stop that train. Galileo is well along in their implementation, and the others core constellations are coming along quite well as well. This is an effort now to take what they're doing, maybe make some review, maybe make some last minute fine tuning on it, because we can still catch their code and say, no, let's do your FEC a little better than you have your FEC in there right now, and make some guidance to them, but then to see where else this may, to document it in a public venue for other people to see it, because you will be coding this if you're doing any GNSS responder. You're making your own GNSS responder, you'll be doing this.
I'm gonna keep going.
Sorry.
Okay. Christopher.
If the standards body that is ICAO makes a formal request of IETF, do we need to go through dispatch to adopt it? Do we not have a process for other standards bodies requesting updates of our RFCs?
So still, they will have to come to the dispatch, and the IETF has to decide what needs to be done, right? If anything, right?
So if I may, so this is Deb Cooley, I'm Security AD. So we looked up the previous draft, and it appears to have been AD sponsored in the security area. And so we could do that again. My concern is that the reference documentations are available, because that's an issue. But we would be willing to AD sponsor it.
Okay, thank you. And there is a liaison agreement between IKO, particularly through the Trust Framework Panel, which is my main participation, with IETF. So there is a liaison arrangement.
Okay, Ted.
Ted Hardy, definitely not a security AD. I am concerned, however, about the question that we often think about at dispatch, which is change control. Typically, one element of bringing work into the IETF is change control, and your interchange with Britta makes me a little bit concerned that the actual change control for this would not result in the IETF being able to make substantive changes given the requirements. So I think before it comes in for AD sponsorship or anything else, you need to be able to confirm with the standards body that's currently working on it whether or not there's substantive changes permitted by the IETF. And if the answer to that is no, then I think they send us a liaison to ask us for review. It goes to DRIP or to SAG, and people who wish to give them review within their process can do so. But unless the change control comes to the IETF, I don't think dispatching it into the IETF makes sense. Thanks.
IKO and others I'm involved with aviation, they would rather just reference other people's works and the change control there, and they implement based on their time frame that they can do things. They'd rather get out of the business that they're in right now.
Thank you for that clarification, Ted Hardy, again. But your exchange with Britta indicated that if the answer the IETF came to was, this does not succeed at the desired goal, then that would not be accepted. Is that the case? I think that's problematic.
Okay.
Yeah, Eric.
So Eric Ving, the responsibility for DRIP. Just to tell, it's completely outside of the DRIP charter to my reading, so we need to find another avenue. And minor correction, there is no official liaison between ICAO and IETF. There has been one or two liaison statements, which is not the same. Doesn't change the complete picture anyway, but clarification.
Okay, thank you.
Just please give me a home to take it. If it's the AD sponsored, I'll get with the ADs. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, so it feels like the IETF is not ready kind of to work on this one. So maybe we need a little bit more discussion and maybe clarification about like who controls what, right? So maybe continue that discussion on the mailing list and see what happens.
Yes,
Okay.
we'll set up a mailing list on this and something along that line. I unfortunately got in front of some terrible fan that sucked me into this work.
Okay, thank you, Robert. Okay, I think we're done with our presentations. Any other business? Yeah. We dropped that. So, yeah. Any other comments, questions? If not, we just neglected to mention our co-chairs who are online. So thank you, Shuping and Daniel, for your help. And thank you all. We're done here. Thanks.